Welcome to Voices Beyond the Spectrum. Real stories, brave voices, radiant perspectives. This is the podcast for parents and caregivers of autistic and neurodivergent children and teens. I'm your host, and each week we hold space for honest conversations, shared struggles, and hard-won victories from those who truly live it. You're not alone, your story matters, and it starts here. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Voices Beyond the Spectrum. I'm your host, Karla Chinen, and today we have a beautiful mom. Her name is Tanasha Jackson, and she's here to talk to us about showing up online and showing up at home. She is a lovely mother to a beautiful young girl that is autistic, and she's going to introduce herself and tell us more about herself.
Hi,
Hi,
thank you
how?
so much.
Of course. So tell us a little bit more about your journey with your daughter, if you would like to share that, and how it was when you got her diagnosis.
So, my journey with my daughter, from the moment she was born, she displayed a lot of different behaviors. And then as she got older, of course, the meltdowns were persistent. They became more frequent. Um, she interacted with children very differently, if any at all. Even right down to putting her in preschool early because of the location we were in, they would do 2K or 3K,
Mhm.
and she would oftentimes just not commingle at all. She would display a lot of things that look like social anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that there was something going on. So entrance became really, really, really frequent
Mm-hmm.
and really they became more intense. I guess that's the word.
Mm-hmm.
So, on my journey to getting her diagnosed, it was almost like I was being questioned. And instead of them having the tools to help me, it was kind of like me having to search. And the only thing I had was my mother's instinct. I didn't have any verbiage. I didn't have any educational knowledge when it came to autism or psychology or any of those things. It was pre-COVID and I had just lost my dad.
Oh my God.
So it was a lot of changes happening for her and I, which probably why the tantrums increased and it was a lot of changes in schedule. It was a lot. So when we relocated to where we currently are. And it was hard getting her diagnosed
Mm-hmm.
because it was a lack of understanding and representation with autism and her being a female. And that's when my journey began to understand the disparities when it comes to autism in certain communities,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to culture.
Mm-hmm.
But she was diagnosed at 7. And the diagnosis for me was a relief, but I still was burdened with a lot because even after the diagnosis, it's still a roadmap, but you have to look at that roadmap and then
Mm-hmm.
look at your child and figure out where in between those things and what's best for your child.
Definitely. And I'm sorry about you having to go through all that. And I know, I mean, getting the diagnosis is bad enough, but then getting it right after you go through an emotional, situation with your losing your father and then pre-COVID on top of that. I mean, I can imagine how emotionally draining that was for you. After you got the diagnosis, were you able to go through the process of mourning? Were you able to, or have you even gone through that process yet? How long has it been since you've gotten that diagnosis?
So my daughter was 7 when we got diagnosed and she's 9 now.
Oh, okay.
When my dad passed away, it was in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a several year difference. And right after that, there was a shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot, dealing with the child with the transitions, the meltdowns, grieving. And then during that time period, I had just stepped into a new career. So, right.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. I still don't know how I got through it. But to answer your question, I feel like I have mourned, but I feel like when it comes to losing someone, um, a parent, and unfortunately for me, we didn't have a lot of time together because I met him when I was 21 years old.
Mhm.
So it's something that you just learn to live with.
Okay.
I
And how
don't even know if I can fully say that I've mourned, you know?
mhm. And how about another aspect of the mourning aspect is how about the morning of when you get that diagnosis? I know a lot of parents go through that process of not mourning the fact that, I mean, you have your child there, but just the idea of what you felt you were gonna go through and live through with your child, that you had ambition prior to the diagnosis, based on what you would think their capabilities, um, in your mind, were going to be compared to now having them to at times have to play catch up, to certain milestones.
Um,
And just, acknowledging it and also seeing the beauty behind it, beauty behind the diagnosis. Because there are silver linings in every case.
mhm. The diagnosis for me and the mourning part, I feel like even prior to that, I went through that. But afterwards, it was kind of like I was led to what life would really look like, but I experienced it prior. And let me give you an example. So at the time period, we had a lot of children in our neighborhood, that would be outside playing a
Mhm.
lot. But my daughter was never able to go outside and play
Mhm.
because oftentimes, um, and this is because she also has an accompanying diagnosis, the comorbids, but she's also dyslexic.
Mhm.
So I, as a mom, when I saw the gaps, I would try to keep her going. So while the kids were playing outside, it was like I was providing the therapy.
Mhm.
And she would often feel like, I'm different. This is different. Like, why can't I do, what they're doing? And
Definitely.
I would have to explain to her, like, Mama, this is what we have to do for you.
Mhm.
So once I got the diagnosis, I understand how in depth it goes with the therapies,
Mhm.
how, life can look like, and also the extra sacrifices that I was going to be impacted to make.
Mhm.
So it was different and it was a lot, and it was mourning our old life, really, because life shifted for us.
Definitely. And if I may ask, only if you're comfortable answering, when they give you the diagnosis, what level did they set her on?
So that's another thing too. I got two sets of paperwork. So
Mhm.
one said level one and one said level two.
Okay.
Because it was two different questionnaires, but in my heart of hearts, I know she's level two because she requires a lot of assistance, even in her IEPs, even when she's at school. Like, and I was fortunate enough, even though her teacher did not fully understand autism,
Mm-hmm.
but she would advocate for her in a way like she requires a lot of assistance. She requires it, and it was always like that. Even as a mom thinking back, I always had to do extra. So as proficient as she looked as a child, people don't understand how tired I was behind her.
Yeah, definitely. Just having to kind of fill in all the gaps, basically,
And
as a mom.
still, like
Yeah.
anything when it's bathing. And I mean, now she's becoming a young female,
Mhm.
so it looks a lot different. So with grooming, I'm having to really teach her in depthly a lot of things that to a neurotypical child they may already know.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of extra work that I do and I've been doing behind the scenes.
Yeah. And
So
I
it's
think they also have probably more of that, like, and I don't mean to interrupt, I apologize.
yeah, so
Um, they
and I
have those.
know, and a lot of times too, when people ask the levels, it used to be so frustrating to me because people don't understand what I go through. Like they
Mhm.
don't understand how tired I always was,
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
frustrating it was, how just even putting that, it's almost like somebody's asking you what's in your bank account. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
because people don't know what you go through,
Exactly.
or what she's going through.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think like a lot of those skills that you mentioned that you have to go into detail for. I think social aspect details. Like I know, for example, even with my daughter that she's level one, I have to sit there and she'll give me a story of something that happened in school. And she's like, I don't understand why that little girl got mad. I'm like, okay, tell me what happened. So then she tells me, oh, she said that I had nice hair. And I said, oh, thanks. And then I'm like, did you compliment her back? And she's like, no. Did I have to? I'm like, it's social cueing. Yes, you do. You do have to compliment back. It's reciprocation. You have to, if they say something, you have to say something in return. Or just giving them those tools. Have you gone to the point of is she aware that she has a diagnosis or you just know and she doesn't know?
I've always told her that she was different prior to the diagnosis, and
Mm-hmm.
she's always known that she was different. Did we have the autism conversation? Absolutely. I think she's still struggling with it
Mm-hmm.
because it's like I know that, well, and I'm paraphrasing for her. It's like she knows that she has autism and she wants so badly for it not to impact her the way it does
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because she's a real strong-willed little girl. She's extremely strong-willed.
Yeah. I know. I have a 9-year-old too. My daughter, she's 9 as well. And yeah, I mean, I think I had the talk with her about her diagnosis like around 6 when we had it officially. I mean, I knew, like I told you, I took her when I was 20, she was 21 months also to get diagnosed, but they turned me back because of those how autism looks different in girls than it does in boys, and having to have that talk with her, not so much for the sake of her, because a lot of people, parents say, oh, they're going to use it as a scapegoat so they can get away with things. I'm like, not necessarily.
I had a
Um,
doctor tell me that.
yeah, I'm like, it's not necessarily. It's about them understanding why they might not quite fit in into certain areas. Like my daughter, she can sit with older kids and talk to them all day long because they're talking about stuff she's interested in.
Mhm.
But then sit her around her peers, she doesn't understand why they're laughing at a video of, I don't know, a dog passing gas. I don't know, the dumbest things, the kids look at and laugh about. Like my daughter doesn't find that funny. She's like, that's so dumb. Why do I? And she's like, I don't understand these people. And I'm like, I understand, just, and she's like, I need to talk to someone about books. I need to, like, she's a very old soul. I always joke around. I'm like, you're 60 in a 9-year-old body, a 60-year-old woman. And then, but with that being said, with your daughter, I think that's a beautiful thing. You had that conversation with her. You were like, hey, this is the reason why you give her. I feel like it's like when we're sick and we go to the doctor, we're trying to get some kind of answer as to why we feel the way we feel. Not that autism is a sickness, but it comes with certain things like anxiety, social anxiety, them not being able to talk to peers as easily, and they want to know why. The same thing for us when we go and try to say, "Hey, why do I have a headache?" And they come back and say, just take 2 Tylenols. And that's it. They don't give you like a reason behind, oh, you might have migraines. Let's check you for that. You
And
know?
that's why I kind of wish that I would have been able, all the things that I know now and I understand and all the moving parts and pieces to all of this, I wish I would have known back then because when we were in New York, I have videos of if they were putting on a show, she'd walk in a room and she's like, and she had a teacher that she was very close to, very, very close to. And just even if the kids had parts, I would always be like, well, why can't Harmony do that? And the teacher would be, defensive, like, because she doesn't want to. It was almost like I was expecting something of her that she didn't have the capabilities to, but I was in an environment where they just let Harmony be her. But I wish somebody would have just put it more in words.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas where I came from, it was totally taboo. So it was more like I had to work harder,
Mm-hmm.
but because of the lack of awareness in both environments, it negatively impacted her and I both because there was no understanding.
Yeah, it's very
Even if
true.
there were more support in one than the other,
Hmm.
um, there was no explanations, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And it's very true how an environment that's truly inclusive looks like compared to one that they say they do want to include them, but not really, and how that can impact a child. Like in this, I switched my daughter's schools like two, three times already. Now
Mhm.
she's in the school I feel that really attends to her needs a lot
Mhm.
more. And the peers are more into a little bit more into things she's into. So she's able to, she calls them acquaintances. She's like, they're my acquaintances. They're not my friends. So she has more acquaintances there. And
Mhm.
then so it does matter where you put your daughter, the environment where your child is, the environment you advocate for is it literally breaks or makes our kids. As sad as that sounds, it truly
Mhm.
does. You know. Now moving a little bit more into showing up online.
Mhm.
So obviously we met through a social media.
Mhm.
And with that being said, how do you find your platform being a voice for you and how you feel you impact others through your platform?
Um, well, let me start by saying when I first came to TikTok, I was not a social media person.
Mm,
I was still struggling myself with this whole story and what it looked like. And it's so funny because my initial plan for TikTok, when I created the account, I'm sitting in it right now. It just doesn't look how I thought it would look.
mhm,
And I just knew that I wanted to do something where I spent more time with her. But I found myself in a space where it was unfamiliar to me. And the main thing that I wanted to do was uplift people because I knew in the world how much that was needed, right?
yeah.
Because a lot of us, in some way, shape, or form, we have difficulties, and it's always good to hear a good word, right?
Mhm,
But I was still on a journey of understanding my current situation and circumstances and even understanding hers. So I was impacted with the level of responsibility. And as I delve into that, I understood that, and I've now arrived there where I just hope that my platform uplifts people and make them feel comfortable.
mhm,
Um, where and sometimes in spaces with these diagnoses in these situations, we don't feel comfortable, which makes us resent and reject the information put in front of us
mhm.
and kind of run away from the facts.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm hoping that my platform
Mhm,
and from what I've been doing and now that I have more understanding of it all, like all the moving parts of it, can make people feel comfortable with the diagnosis
mhm,
and kind of shift the narrative that it is not something that's bad. It
mhm,
is, in fact, a superpower.
mhm.
And the more that children are diagnosed, the more we can prepare for them by accepting it and educating ourselves on it culturally.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm Mexican, and then like I mentioned, my kids are also half black, half Japanese. And in a lot of those cultures, it's diagnosis is a taboo topic. We don't talk about mental health. In Mexico, they, with my Mexican family, whenever I would say, "Oh my God, I feel a little bit of anxiety," my mom would be like, "Well, then go clean your room. Get up and go clean your room. You have too much time, idle time in your hands." And that's how we grew up. We were toughened up, I guess. But in the long run, it does have it as adverse effects as we get older, and we don't get to learn coping mechanisms at a younger age to be able to help us through adulthood. And it's beautiful to see that you in the Black community, you're trying
Mhm.
to embrace and have other parents and families be comfortable with that diagnosis, acknowledge it instead of, saying, no, my kid doesn't have anything wrong with them. My kid,
Mhm.
it's about acknowledging the struggles. Yes, a diagnosis comes with struggles. Let's keep things real. But it also comes with a lot of wonderful things and different situations that our kids put us in. Like how they view the world is so much different. And it provides also so many other cool solutions to things that you wouldn't think practically to think of that as a solution.
Mhm.
They think so much outside the box.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's really great that you are able to do that for the communities. Have you met a lot of families and connected with a lot of families?
Um, I'm gonna put it like this.
Mm-hmm.
I have met a lot of people, and have I feel impacted a lot of families.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you plant a seed, you don't instantly see the growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've run across people and have they come to me and said, "Hey, you helped?" Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that people are opening up to be able to have these conversations because there are people coming to me, sharing their stories with me,
That's
where
awesome.
I know normally they wouldn't do that.
That's
And that's
awesome.
the best way to that I can answer your question.
No, no, no. And that's awesome. And I think that's where it all starts, having that open dialogue, asking questions that others are fearful of asking or listening. Sometimes some people just need just want you to listen to them and to, to have that outing, because a lot of parents, it is a very isolating world. Not many people understand why. I don't know, I've had friends where they only cook certain things on certain days, because their kid, if not, that's a meltdown in their house. Or in my case, like we would only go to certain restaurants because my kid would only eat from certain restaurants. And it's just, you know, I have still a lot of friends that have neurodivergent kids, but my a lot of my core friends, sometimes the ones that I can text really quick, hey, this is what happened with Adrian, or this is what happened with Sophia, that I know that they would understand and provide that empathy, are usually mostly parents that have neurodivergent children. So I think building that community is such an important factor. And we do have a support group every Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month if you'd like to join too. Because I know it's good to have. I have some beautiful ladies that attend that support group virtually, and we've shed some tears in there. That's always open for you to join us. Now shifting a little bit on how your day looks day to day with your daughter at home. How does that look for you, or to be able to balance, you know, your work life and your daughter?
I don't know. Oftentimes when people ask me these questions, I've always been a person to not think about what I'm doing, but just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So when people ask me these questions, I have to look back on it. And I would say work-life balance, for me prior to the last 12 months was very hard and very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It was very depressing. It was very frustrating. And it was hard because I didn't understand why it was so hard. It was hard for her. It was hard for me. And it wasn't the working aspect of it all. I'm getting emotional thinking about it, but it was just um transitions in the morning, getting out the house, her not wanting to, me not understanding why. me understanding its environment, who she's going to see at school, what happened, why she might be feeling. Also understanding bedtime routines and how I need to perfectly articulate and perfect that to have a good transitioning morning the next day. I didn't know. I had no clue. I just knew that I had to get out that door by a certain time to pay those bills and then getting to work. If I was late, nobody wanted to hear my daughter was having a meltdown this morning because
Mm-hmm.
nobody understood. They immediately ostracized me as a parent. So, it was hard and frustrating. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, no, and
Mhm.
I'm sorry you have to go through that. I know.
Yeah.
Being a mommy with neurodivergent children, I mean, all mommies go through it, but I think mommies with neurodivergent children that have more intense needs are the ones that take the career loss, that have to switch careers, that have to pause their dreams, their aspirations in moving up a company or doing something. I know I personally switched roles because of that. I remember I tried to go back to work doing what I was doing before Adrian was born, and which I enjoyed, but it was regressions that occurred when I was gone, and that's leaving him with a person that I trust, my mother. I knew he was going to take care of him. She was going to take care of him well. And even then, he would lay down at nights and say, Mommy, no go work. Mommy, stay home. Lita, go home. Like, so it was a lot of that and having to process that. And it's a lot of emotional drainage. And I don't think it's acknowledged enough, and it's shined as to sometimes the sacrifices the main caregiver, because it's not always moms, it's the main caregiver that ends
Mhm.
up making these sacrifices, and yeah, I mean, all I could say is like, send you a hug from here,
I mean, when
and
we first moved here, with my skill set and just how I am, I was in a company for 11 years, but prior to that, I still had time in, and I worked my way up because I said I stepped into a new career, but it was within the same company.
hmm
And I remember the company came up with a new role, fresh out, new. And it was a big responsibility. And it was offered to me, and I had to say no. And when I said no, the pharmacist, the manager, he looked at me, like, no. Like, how dare you say no? And this was before her diagnosis, but I knew that I could not take on any extra responsibility during that time period
hmm
because I was pouring so much into her and I was tired. She was tired. We was tired,
hmm
but it didn't stop me from pouring into work. It didn't stop me from pouring into others.
hmm
But I'm explaining that to say that I did. I was sacrificing even before I made the biggest sacrifice of my life.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'm pretty sure our kids know that we're there and that's going to improve their progress too. So I don't regret any changes I've made career-wise. I think it all goes back to full circle, and I always I see some moms that are barely starting the journey and I see myself in them. And from the journey of the diagnosis specifically, and I see myself in them. And I remember the initial feelings, the initial sense of sacrificing, the initial feelings of feeling extremely overwhelmed and the uncertainty. And now, fast forward, though things are not all peachy in my home, like there's still behaviors, there's still meltdowns, there's still uncertainty. Finding a process and creating that circle of support around you really helps, and now that Adrian's becoming a young man, he's turning 12 this year. I've really tried to have my husband start stepping in more, which is also something I struggle with, and I talk about it in my book, of having that fear of having dad step in or having another caregiver step in.
Because you feel like they can do it better than you and you don't want to put it
Exactly. And
down.
honestly, let's keep it real. They probably can. But but it took a lot of training, you know. It sounds horrible to say it like that, but it takes a lot of cool having someone have open mind to be able to accept constructive criticism, which I'm blessed to have my husband that is that now as a more mature older man that he is compared to the man that I married.
It took
You know,
time.
he definitely matured in that department.
Mhm.
So being able to say, hey, you know, if you do it like that with him, you're gonna get this outcome. Well, how
Mhm.
do you know? Because I've been caring for him for the last 9, 10 years. Maybe that's why. I'm like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do because I know you don't like that. I'm not trying to come out condescending. I'm just trying to do what's best for Adrian because let's get back to what we're here for. We're not here for your feelings or my feelings. We're here to see what's best for Adrian and his care. So
Mhm.
this is what I've known has helped me. I'm
Mhm.
trying to pass on that information to see if that helps you. You'll also find ways like he does certain things that I wouldn't do on
Mhm.
how to care
Mhm.
for Adrian,
Mhm.
but that works for him and I've learned to also back off, you know,
Mhm.
and just have that respect for one another. Like I truly think that if in a relationship you build the trust, you build the respect and you build the communication. Those are the three main factors I think in any relationship. And
That's
you know, and that's what I've helped try to instill in my husband and our relationship so we can help Adrian, you know,
I
and
love
help him
that for
through it.
you. I
So, but
do.
I know initially, like I see moms and I'm like, you'll get there. You'll get to the point where if you want to work somewhere, you'll get to work there. You know,
Mhm.
just it's the few beginning years. And then, for example, Adrian is severe. So we constantly have to shift roles, my husband and I, you know,
Mhm.
to what best fits him and even include sometimes my mom in it. I mean, I'm blessed to have my mom's help too at times, you know, but
Mhm.
I do have to realize she's eventually going to get older to the point that physically she will not.
Mhm.
And, you know, it does get easier. It's just a matter of just building that community. That's the biggest thing. That's where I think I wish I would have done it earlier. Build that community because I isolated myself a lot in the beginning. And I feel like that's what really helps a lot of our communities, building that. A lot of our moms, a lot of our dads, you
Mhm.
know. So you could have that person at least to vent to or to talk about your daughter's accomplishments, you know,
Mhm.
that no other parent could understand. So, but yeah, back to so now that you are here, where do
Mhm.
you see things going for you?
Um, I see things opening up in the gifts that I display or I have
Mm-hmm.
now that it's all coming together in the community and I'm talking about the neurodivergent community, autism community. And as I find my footing with that,
Mm-hmm.
I see me expanding more and being able to help more people,
Mm-hmm.
and more families, in many different ways, and just maybe across the board in general, just having an impact. Because even before I stepped into this and I've arrived where I am, I was inspiring people, that was moms just like me and telling them to go for it and go do it, but I wasn't even doing it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing, because it just came so natural. So I see this, I see me just have an impact. That's the best way that I can put it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's really good. And to kind of close it off for today, what would you say to other parents that are starting, who are just at the beginning of things, or what would you say to yourself your younger self when you first started either seeing signs from your daughter? Because in this case, it's not necessarily from the diagnosis, because you knew that she was neurodivergent before then. So what would you tell that parent that felt lost or confused based on what you
I would
know
say to
now?
that parent, trust your gut, trust your intuition.
Hmm.
We have parent intuition for a reason, and it's the one gift that we can rely on.
Hmm. That's true.
And once you have that and you're firm and you're strong in it, do your research. And don't ever let anybody question your parent intuition because that's your superpower.
That's very, very true. Um, well, thank you very much for joining us today. I know we had like time differences, and I do appreciate you making room for us and for me to talk to you today. And just know if you do move forward with doing that nonprofit on your end, we're happy to hear and collaborate with you through Empathy for Autism California, and share resources with each other and go from there to try to push and empower more families around us. But it was a pleasure talking to you and for you to share the story of your daughter and you, and shine light on what blessings you've gone out of it, as well as maybe what struggles you've gone through, and where you're at now. But we wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors, and we hope to continue to stay in contact. And like I said, you have support from us here if you need anything. All right.
And I wish you well too. Good luck on everything. And
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you very much.
appreciative that, you gave me the opportunity. So
Of
thank you.
course, of course. I think that's 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 why I wanted to do this podcast, just to give parents that platform. Like I've
Mhm.
mentioned it multiple times, I feel like parents don't get the platform very often. It's always the specialist, and it's always the ones that are not in the room with our kids 24/7. We're the ones that see all the behaviors. We're the ones that see all the accomplishments. We're the ones
Mhm.
that have those nights where our kids don't sleep all night and we stay up with them all night. And we can't explain why they don't sleep all night. We're the ones having those hard conversations to advocate for our kids. So why not be the ones to share our stories?
Absolutely.
I think it's about time for us to get a little bit more of a platform, not just because we don't have acronyms after our names doesn't take away the right for us to not share our stories.
Yet,
Yet, I'm working on it, but still,
yeah,
for my family especially, I really wanted to provide that platform.
you didn't want to. You are. You're
Thank you.
doing it.
Thank
Listen,
you.
oftentimes, and I'm saying this to you because I was that person too. I was always pouring, 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 and I was looking at where I was going and not acknowledging where I've been and where I am, right?
Yeah.
So give yourself credit because you are doing it. Even the conversation that we just had was so impactful.
Oh,
And I've taken two things from you. I'm pushing, pushing, pushing. I'm hard working, but I don't see what I'm doing. I want to do more. You're doing enough and you're gonna get there. You're amazing, okay?
thank you.
Know that.
Aw. Same love to you, and same love to
Mhm.
you. And I do appreciate you accepting the invitation, and it's been a blessing meeting you and getting
Mhm.
to know you, and I'm looking forward to future collaborations with you, and make things happen, how we always have to do. But
We'll see.
but thank you again, and then thank you everyone listening. I'll be loading a new episode in 2 weeks. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us on Voices Beyond the Spectrum. A special thank you to Tanisha Jackson for sharing her story with honesty and heart. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Podbean. Also, don't forget to subscribe. And music for today's episode was created by Brad Kalouv and piano by Sophia Chinen and Brad Kalouv. And remember, take one small action of empathy today. Together, we create change. I'm Karla Chinen, and this is Voices Beyond the Spectrum. Have a great one.